welcome Tracey Marshall. So pleased that you could join me today, Tracey, for Story Live. Yeah, welcome. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. It's Monday, we're in February, we survived January. How bad could it be? The crocuses are starting to appear, it's happy times.
Yes, I noticed that today, and of course the snowdrops are out in full bloom, aren't they? Which I love to see, and I don't actually have many of them in my garden, but I do love to see them. Yeah. So Tracey, we met probably what, 2.5, 3 years ago. Yeah, you were a very new member of the Athena Network, and we met at one of the coffee morning sessions, didn't we? Cappuccino Connections. And of course, that was in person. We were there actually.
You could meet real life people.
Your coffee, yeah. And we've been in touch and seen each other at different meetings, and I think we probably had a one-to-one and all sorts of things, haven't we? And yeah, although I love what you do. I know you're going to explain what you do in a minute. And I am an absolute convert in terms of the value of what you do. So over to you to tell our listeners what it is that you do and what prompted you to do it.
So I'm a personal stylist. I'm a franchisee for House of Colour. So I cover the Bracknell, Crowthorne areas. And I help women and men regain and gain confidence through the way they look. And people think it's quite sort of frivolous, but actually it's not about the way you look, it is about the way you feel. And by helping people feel better about the way they look, their whole demeanour changes, their whole confidence changes, everything about them changes, and it opens up possibilities. So there's a whole lot more than just being the lady that tells you what shade of green to wear. There's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, and I so know that, and I've got so many of my own stories about that. And I remember actually, I think I probably had my colours done something like somewhere between 15 and 18 years ago. And I do remember I used to run a group counselling program at that time, and I had this lady in my group that always used to seem so confident, really well put together, and it used to surprise me. I thought, well, how come she, because it was a counselling group, of course she was pouring out all her fragilities, if you like. And it was only after I'd gone on and had my colours done that I thought, actually, just because she always had, like her lipstick always seemed to be the perfect colour for her, and it matched what she wore and all of that. Now, whether she'd ever had her colours done or just knew instinctively, I have no idea. But what it meant for me was that she gave off this aura of confidence because she was wearing colours that suited her. So that was kind of something I noticed before I even realised the value. But I certainly, for myself, I know that if I'm wearing something that isn't the right colour, and probably more importantly, the right style, that actually it makes a big difference. But you haven't always done this, Tracey, have you? It's a relatively new career. So
no.
Tell us your life story in terms of your work career.
My life story. So I'm Bracknell born and bred, and I suppose I started my career working at Safeway's supermarket in Bracknell, and it was a little part-time sort of weekend job while I was doing my A-levels, and very excited, earning £2.80 an hour, and all those kind of things. So it was the 90s. And I did that. I worked there. I just worked weekends. I worked in the canteen. I worked on the counters. I ran the checkouts, all those kind of things. And I did that for a little while, and I really enjoyed it. And then my A-levels didn't go quite as well as I maybe had anticipated they might. I'd always been a bit of an academic sort of natural and never really had to try very hard. And then I got to my A-levels and probably should have tried a little harder. But subsequently didn't end up going to university, which was not maybe what my parents had planned for me. So I ended up then working full time at Safeways, and I was running a coffee shop by then. The cafe was sort of one of the best ones. They had to have more seating put in. It was getting busier and busier, and so that was really good and really successful. And I loved that. But it did become something that kind of took over my life. I worked ridiculously long hours. I'd be there until 10 o'clock at night and back in at 5 the next morning. And I thought there's got to be more to life than this, because I just got to the point where I wasn't going out anywhere because I was just working all the time.
So you would have been quite young, obviously, at that time. So going out is a really important thing, isn't it?
Yeah, so that was probably sort of most of the way through my 20s. I did that, and had a little stint where I left and tried working for a restaurant. That was no easier. So ended up back at Safeways. But actually, after that, I decided that I'd like to try and get into a head office, and the Safeways head office was a long way away, whereas Waitrose head office is right in the middle of Bracknell. And my sister had done a bit of temping there, and I thought, actually, if I could get in there, I think I could really do good things. So I started as a temp on reception on a 3-week contract that then got extended, and then I finally got a full-time permanent position there as an assistant in the transport department, so ordering things like the fuel and the drivers' uniforms and
Wow.
doing agency time sheets.
Yeah, of course we don't think about that, do we? We go into Waitrose to do shopping. We don't think that somebody's got to be doing that, ordering the fuel for the vans and things like
that. Yeah, I mean, if you forget to order the diesel for the trucks, yeah, you're not popular.
that.
So yeah,
This would be the big trucks that deliver the stuff to the stores, not the home delivery van.
Yeah, the big trucks, Arctics. Yeah, so yeah, I did that, and I've made some great friends there. I actually met a chap that then ended up introducing him to my sister, who's now my brother-in-law. So if I hadn't have started at Waitrose, my niece wouldn't exist. And actually that's where I've ended up meeting my partner. Actually worked in that department as well, although we were on different shifts and we didn't really know each other at the time. But yeah, so I worked my way up through Waitrose. I became a buyer's assistant, and then I worked looking after the cheese and deli counters from a central point of view. So I wasn't buying at this point, but I was going out and mentoring the section managers on the counters and how to get the most profit and sales out of their counters, and setting up new stores. So very, very lucky I got to work on things like Oxford Street Food Hall, which is the one in the basement of the John Lewis on Oxford Street, and the cheese room that they had there. I've worked on Marylebone High Street and sort of new concept stores and things like that. So really, really exciting stuff.
Yes, and all the while getting discount on your shopping, Tracy. Yes.
Yeah, and then the good thing is because Simon's still there, I still get the discount even though I've left.
So. Oh dear, how lovely. Yeah. I know I mean, my children never got jobs at Waitrose, but I was kind of saying, well, what about Waitrose? What about
25% off in John Lewis is very kind.
Yeah, no, because I certainly had friends that did, and yeah, big difference. So great. So that's amazing. So what was it then that triggered you? Because you obviously had a very successful career. How long were you with Waitrose altogether?
I was with Waitrose about 17 years all in all, and the last 9 I looked after the small producers. So I was local and regional buyer. So there was myself and my colleague, and we sort of managed the whole operation, everything from creating the policies and the structure and the strategy and everything for the entire Waitrose. So whether that was putting Scottish specific products in Scottish stores, or just a one-man band beekeeper who just wanted to supply one shop with his honey, we looked after those. We helped those guys through the European changes in labels, and just handheld and nurtured. I suppose we were buyers, but we weren't the big bad buyers that were there to negotiate and make lots of money. We were there because it was the right thing to do to support small producers, and it goes hand in hand with Waitrose ethics. So I was very, very lucky to do that job. I met some wonderful people. I have, seen cows being milked. I've driven a tractor. I've dug potatoes out of the field and then seen them go through the process being made crisps. And I'm very, very lucky, and to have changed people's lives and given them the confidence to achieve their dreams, whether that was, world domination starting with one Waitrose store, or whether they just wanted to supply 1 or 2 shops and be able to say, yes, I supply Waitrose, I'm good enough to supply Waitrose,
because that I think is one of the lovely things. I mean, and I'm saying Waitrose because that's who we're talking about. I have no idea which of the other supermarkets do anything similar, but I know that Waitrose do this, where I could go to my local Waitrose today and buy something that isn't available in Bracknell because it's not local to Bracknell. Because I live in here in Petersfield in Hampshire. So so as you say, it could be a small supplier, as you say, producing however many jars of honey a month, or it could be somebody that ultimately could supply the whole of Waitrose with their honey, presumably.
Yeah, someone who wants to be the next Tyrrell's Crisps, you know, or something.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah. So what was the trigger that made you leave and do what you're doing?
It's really funny because I didn't leave because I didn't love the job. People assume I got made redundant or anything, and it's just like, no, actually, some redundancies came through head office, or came through particularly when my sister and brother-in-law worked, and they were going through a consultation period, and I just kind of thought, what would I do if that happened? And I thought the only thing I could think of was to do what I do now, because a lady came. So my predecessor, who's a lady called Alison, came to head office and did a talk, and I saw her put coloured drapes around people, and I could see how their faces lit up or looked more tired, you know. And I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. So I organised for a little group of 5 of us from our department to go and have our colours done, to go and have colour analysis with Alison, and it was just. It was life-changing for me. I'd hidden away in beiges and browns, you know, and you know, I had everybody has a pair of black trousers, you know, and so that was kind of my work uniform. But actually, outside of work, I dressed in brown and khaki, and I can see now that I was hiding. When I first moved to Waitrose and was no longer working on my feet all day long, you know, with a lovely subsidised canteen, I put on. They talk about the Waitrose stone. I put on 3. And yeah, I do like food. So you know, so actually I was hiding a little bit behind my clothes, and this it was just life changing. I was suddenly getting compliments on things. I was being braver and wearing colour, and I suppose when an opportunity came up, and my sister was being looking at redundancy. I mean, it didn't happen in the end, but I was like, what would I do? I would do this, and I that never came up. And then just by chance, I happened to hear that my predecessor was giving up for a complete career change. So she's now an interfaith minister. So very, very different. But it was an email that I wouldn't normally have opened, that I nearly trashed, and actually then sent on to a young lady that I worked with, whose mum happened to know that Alison was moving on. And it's just like, if I hadn't have sent that email into work to remind me to talk to Yasmin, to, you know, so I think stars aligned, and it was, oh, you do know Alison's giving it up. And it was like, no, I did not know that Alison was giving it up. And so I do just sort of think, and where I'd looked at it previously, when I'd first gone through the colour analysis process, I'd looked into buying into the franchise then, because Ascot and Virginia Water was vacant and I just couldn't afford to do it. Whereas sort of move it on 7 years, 7 years, you know, Simon and I were living together, so my financial situation was a little bit more secure. I had a little bit more money in the bank anyway, and I was just like, I really want to do this. And the day I first went and spoke to her about it, I cried all the way home, because, you know, my heart was telling me do it. My head was going, what? You've got a great job with a great pension and good prospects and lots of job security. And, you know, and in my dad's words, you're giving all that up on a company car and a private healthcare to tell people what colour to wear. Yes, Dad, that's what I'm doing, Dad.
That's such a dad view on these things, isn't it?
It is such a dad thing to do. You know, when you're just like, Dad.
Of that generation, I'd say. It's probably not now, but
I don't know. I'm there just going, Dad, I'm 45. I'm a grown up. I've thought this through. You know, I'm not 15. You know, and it's just like, I'm only actually 5 years younger than you were when you retired. You know, yeah. So, and I thought about it, and I came home, and Simon just took one look at me, because you really want to do this, don't you? And I am not a risk taker. I play safe, follow the rules. I do, you know, and I just, for whatever reason, decided, oh, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, great. Let's backpedal a little, if we may, Tracy, because you and I both know what the process is, and you talked about putting drapes up, and there will be people listening, I'm sure, that have no idea what happens.
Yeah.
This might not even really know what having your colours done means. So just explain what happens if somebody is going to come to you for that initial session.
what happens. So I suppose the basics behind it are that there are colours that have warm tones to them, so have some yellowy tone to them, so golden colours, or there are colours that have a more bluey grey tinge to them that have a cool thing. So if you imagine when you turn lights, when you have light bulbs, you have warm light bulbs and cool light bulbs, don't you? And you know, think about your Christmas white lights, they're warm or they're cool. So ones with more bluey grey tones or ones with more yellowy tones. Okay, so if you take all the colours in the world and divide them into warm or cool, so the pink, I mean, I know things don't really work on camera, which is why we don't do colour analysis on camera, but a fuchsia pink is pink with a bit of blue in it, as opposed to a coral pink is pink with a bit of yellow in it. So coral is a warm pink, whereas fuchsia is a cool pink, okay? So, and what we do is we would put a coral drape and a fuchsia drape around someone, and we would look to see what happens to their face. So we cover hair, and we get ladies to come with no makeup on, and I mean guys as well, but no makeup on. We cover hair, because Mother Nature doesn't get our hair wrong. The problem is that we like to interfere with that. And if we interfere with it wrong, then that will be, you know, it's why some people look good with golden highlights and some people look good with ashy highlights. You know, it's that kind of thing. So we cover that up, and we're looking for, we do that with a number of different, they're just like coloured scarves that go around. You know, we try it with some greens and some blues and some purples, and we work out whether someone is warm or cool. And the reason that certain colours look better on some people than they do on others is all to do with the fat cells under your skin. So if the fat cells under your skin have got like a creamy tone to them, warm colours will reflect off of that. If you've got like a bluey grey sort of tone to the fat cells under your skin, then the cooler colours will reflect that. And it's all about an inner glow. It's not about somebody going, oh, I love your dress. It's about somebody going, oh, you look well, have you been away? That's what you want.
Yes. And is it true to say, Tracy, that there is a shade of every colour that suits any one of us? It's just finding that right shade. Is that it?
More or less, yes. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a green,
apart from orange, maybe.
Apart from orange and black, yeah. So there is a shade of navy for everybody. There's a shade of red for everyone. There's a shade of green for everyone. You know, it's whether you need white or whether you need a more creamy white. You know, or whether you need a softer white. You know, and sometimes people can put on a white blouse or shirt and it just looks really, really harsh on them. For some people, it needs to be harsh. I need it to be like crystal, like Dad's washing powder advert white, whereas other people need it to be soft and creamy. You know, and it's just about making the best of what you've got, you know, and you know, without having to put loads of makeup on and without, you know, having to spend lots of time in front of the mirror really thinking about it. But when everything complements your skin tone, it will make you look healthier, it will make you look more awake, it will make you look younger, it can make you look slimmer. I mean, I actually look like I gain half a stone if you put me in coral pink. So you know, wear the right colours and eat more cake. So yeah, so we put a series of drapes on people, work out whether they're warm and cool. We then take it a step further and work out whether they need soft colours or bright colours. And then after that, we actually narrow it down a little bit further. But it's about saying that a quarter of the colours in the universe look amazing on you, and here they are. So it's not about telling people they have to wear that or they must stop wearing this. It's about giving them the tools. You know, we all know that we'll feel better if we have a pint of water before we go to bed than if we have a pint of wine. But the difference is, I'm not saying don't drink the wine. I'm just saying do it knowing that you'll feel and look better the next morning if you have the water. So that, and that's the same with the colours. And it goes through to hair colour, it goes through to jewellery, you know, whether gold or silver looks better, whether which colour lipsticks. You know, when some people just go, oh, I can never find a red lipstick that suits me. You just haven't found the right shade. And it's about knowing, do you need a raspberry one or a more tomatoey one? When you know if you need a cool or warm red, you know, then you'll find the right one. For me, it's got to be cool. I can do scarlet and it doesn't look tarty. On someone else, scarlet will just look really trashy and awful.
Gosh, yes, and I would be one of those people. And years ago, I used to work for Laker Airways, and our uniform was pillar box red. Shocking on me, shocking. Yeah. And because so we had this quite high neck tunic, and we had to wear bright red lipstick.
Yeah.
Awful. And bright red nail varnish. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas actually, if you just pick the right shade of red, so Virgin Atlantic, that is a universal red that everybody looks good in, and that's why Virgin pick it. It's why Royal Mail have it as their uniform. It's why it's in British Airways uniform. Watch BBC News, red, 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 and it is all that tone of red that is primary red, if you like, that doesn't have any blue or yellow tones in it.
Oh, okay, well, that's interesting.
It's the safest colour in the world to wear, but it's the one everybody shies away from.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, just edge it into tomato or edge it into scarlet, and it can just look. It then suddenly looks awful on half the population.
Yeah. Well, that is interesting.
Mm.
What I mean, I'm sure there are some real parallels. You spoke when you were working for Waitrose in particular, how you really loved that thing of bringing up some of the smaller traders, you know, whether it was the beaker or the bigger company.
Mm.
I'm sure there's some parallels there, are there, in what you're doing now? Because it's, what is it that you, the bigger mission that you're on, if it were?
Well, it's definitely, because people go, oh, it's such a strange thing. And I'm like, actually, when you scrape down to what is actually my talent, what I am good at, I'm good at helping people. I get a buzz from helping people. So that's the same, whether that's helping, you know, the sausage maker with efficiencies in his business, or helping somebody who's, you know, who's lost their job and who's got to go into the workplace and has lost all their confidence and just needs a bit of a boost. You know, someone who's just got divorced, someone who's gone through the menopause or trying to go back to work after having children and has lost a little bit of their inner self. And I can help them reach their full potential. And that's exactly what I did with small producers at Waitrose. So it's actually a very, very similar thing. There's a lot of psychology involved, which, to be fair, there is when you're dealing with small producers as well. It's understanding that we're all different. And that, I think, is the beauty of what I do, particularly with the styling classes. It's about reflecting the personalities in between.
Yes.
You know,
yeah. And I was working with a client who, I was working with her on interview skills, which is kind of a little bit out there in terms of what I do, but it was something, it's a communication skill. So talking to her about it, and she was in a situation where she was potentially being made redundant, and everybody had to apply for these newly described jobs, but a little bit like musical chairs, there weren't going to be enough jobs for everybody, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we talked about what she was going to wear to the uniform. Now, she was somebody that was very comfortable in a pair of stretchy trousers and a fleece top. You know, clothes was not important to her particularly, and she was in a job where that really didn't matter. In fact, it was perfectly appropriate for her to go dressed in that way. And I said, what do you tend to wear for interviews? She said, oh, well, she said, I've got a tailored jacket and a pair of smart tailored trousers, but she said, I feel horrible in them. And I sent her, I suggested that she go and see somebody that took her on a shopping trip. And of course, what they found was a jersey dress, because she was quite a curvy lady. So of course, a fabric smartly cut jacket and trousers wasn't right for her, but she didn't know that. She would just thought that was proper interview stuff. But they found a dress that was therefore perfectly suitable for interview. Of course, because it was a soft fabric, it went with her curves. Great. She felt great. And of course, that impacts how you feel at the interview. If you're not comfortable in what you're wearing, you're not going to come over your best, are you?
And that's the thing. I mean, we do sort of say we shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but actually we do.
We do.
We're genetically and historically programmed to do that and to make snap judgments on people, because actually it's a survival instinct. And we all know the people that we've met, and then you get to know them, and then you go, actually, you're a lot nicer than I thought you were going to be. You know what I mean? And actually, if you're warm and cuddly on the inside, but a bit spiky on the outside, then actually let's if we dress the outside to reflect what's on the inside, then actually you attract the right people, you attract the right jobs, you feel more. It's about feeling comfortable in your own skin, and going for an interview, you know, dressed up like a businesswoman should be, you know, actually, if that just makes her feel dreadful, then that will come across in the interview. And I think people know when you're not being authentic, and dressing, you know, I'm a little bit, you know, there is a smartness and a neatness about everything I do, which is why the haircut killing me. But you know, but actually there's a little bit of a quirkiness as well. And so, you know, I am bubbly, I'm chatty, and I talk with my hand. So actually having like little things like brooches and things and more quirky jewelry just kind of gives subliminal clues that I'm maybe not as serious and straight faced, because I've actually got quite I call it resting bitch face, because when I'm concentrating,
I think I've got one of those as well.
and so actually I could look really hard, and I'm really not. So actually, by softening that, by adding some little clues, you know, whether it's pink check trousers or silver shoes or a quirky hat or whatever, or a handbag or my shoes, you know. And so even when I was at Waitrose, you know, I'd have a dress, I'd have a business dress, but it might have polka dots on it. so it would just
Right.
soften the
Yes.
edges. So it's still
Yes.
a business dress, but because it had polka dots on it, it just kind of gives some subliminal, and people aren't there going, oh, polka dots, she must be friendly. It's giving, you know, if we think about shapes, you know, everything from Mr. Strong to Mr. Happy to Mr. Grumpy, you know, they're different shapes because we're
Mm.
trained, and then that's reinforced through literature, through history, through all those kind of things as well. So it might sound very superficial, but it's really not.
Yeah.
And what we do in the style classes is all based on body shape, but it's also based on Carl Jung's theories of archetypes. So it's all psychologically based. So, you know, and it is about reflecting the inner personality. And when you reflect what's on the inside, that will come across, particularly in an interview situation, in a dating situation. You know, all these people that put pictures on, you know, dating profiles, and then you get to meet them in real life, and you go, well, you're not what you were advertising, are you?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it needs to do what it says on the tin. You know.
Yeah. And before we finish, I know you've got a particular story that you want to share, and I'll invite you to share that story and to, you know, put some learning to that for our listeners, if you would.
Yeah. So I suppose for me, it was about seeking that advice from somebody. You know, I went and had my colour analysis and my style done as a bit of a, I just thought it was interesting. I thought it was fascinating. I didn't actually expect it to have the profound effects on me that it did. And I went with 4 colleagues, and we went for colour analysis. And my consultant told me that I was a winter, which means I need bright but cool colours. So it's kind of these ones over this side here, so the bright fuchsia pinks and things. And I was like, oh, bright pink, I'm not sure about bright pink. It took me 6 years to get to the bright pink lipstick, whereas now it's like, it needs to be brighter. And the first time I went to her, she said, trust it, trust the process, and try things on in shops you would not have normally tried. And because the first thing that happens when a woman puts a dress on, particularly women, men not quite so much, but they do a bit. Well, not so much with dresses, but we put a dress on, and the first thing we think is, does it make our bum look big? Does it make our tummy look big? Does it make our wobbly bit stick out? And actually, what we should be doing is looking at what it's doing to our face. So this is the dress that changed my life.
Ah,
My consultant said to me, these were all great colours on me. So there's navies, there's greys, there's white, there's fuchsia pink. And I looked at this on the, it's Marks and Spencer's, and I looked at this on the hanger, and I thought, oh my God, that looks like a curtain. But I thought, I'm going to go and try it on. I trusted the process. I took it into the changing rooms. And for the first time in my adult life, I liked the girl that looked back at me. I'd
oh,
always been a bit uncomfortable, and a bit unconfident. I was a bigger girl when I left school. You know, I'm probably smaller now than I was when I left school. You know, and so I really was sort of hiding behind things. And I actually looked at myself in the mirror and went, wow. So you know when you kind of see these makeover programs and they pull it away, drop the curtain down, and everyone goes, oh my God. It was like that, and I was like, oh God, I can't believe that. So I bought the dress and I wore it to work the next day, and I got 3 compliments before I even got to my desk. And then we went for our breakfast, because that's what you do at Waitrose, you go for breakfast every morning. So we went for breakfast, and I got back to my desk. I got a compliment off the lady in the till. When I got back to my desk, there was an email from somebody I've not spoken to for years saying, "Oh my God, you looked amazing." So I got so many compliments, I nearly went home at lunchtime and got changed, because I got
oh, a bit uncomfortable.
really uncomfortable, because I just wasn't used to the attention. I wasn't used to it, and it was like, and my colleague at work just said, he said, "Don't be ridiculous, don't be ridiculous. You look great. Just own it, and just, you know, because you've got to get used to these." And Alison had pre-warned us, you will get compliments. So this was the dress that changed my life, and I know it was before I'd had my style class done, so but I happened to stumble on exactly the right style of dress. The pattern's a bit big and a bit curtainy for me, but actually the colours are great, the shape of the dress is great. So it was about trusting the process and just taking that leap of faith and putting my trust in someone, even though it was outside of my comfort zone. And I never looked back, because the more compliments I got, the braver I got with it. And the braver I got with it, the more compliments I got. And the more compliments I got, the braver I got. And that snowballed now. And I think my confidence just changed dramatically over the years that I embraced every little bit of it. And I never looked back.
Brilliant. And I think the way that the learning from that is about the leap of faith, isn't it? And so it was about colours and style and dress. For somebody else, it might be investing in something or doing something that's going to change their life. But you can use that story to illustrate all sorts of things. And I always like to sort of pick up on things that have struck me, but I know that you do speak about what you do, but I don't know what angle you take on it. But the couple of things that have caught my mind are that phrase you used, the dress that changed my life, but also going back to the origins of working in Safeway full time because you didn't get your A-level grades to go on and do whatever. And I'm sure, you know, we're all probably guilty of this thing of sort of saying, oh, well, you know, if you can't do anything else, you can stack the shelves in Safeway, Tesco, Waitrose, wherever it is. So you could always say, you know, from stacking shelves in Waitrose to where, you know, whatever you, however you would describe today. So there's, you know, there's always those angles on what you're doing. Tracey, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you today and hearing more about your story, most of which I absolutely knew nothing about. So that was really intriguing. Where can people find you if they would like to connect with you?
So I'm on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and things like that. So I'll pop all that in the chat box. But I'm House of Colour Bracknell on Facebook and Style by Tracey on Instagram. Tells me why they need to be different, but they are.
Lovely.
But I'll put it in the chat box.
Yeah, do. That would be absolutely super. Thank you so